Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're popping the hood on local government to look at a proposal that aims to completely overhaul how things work behind the scenes. We're unpacking an August 2026 strategic roadmap by Daniel DeBrule called the Electronic Public Employee Service Record and LEOSA Modernization Proposal. Basically, this is a massive, top-to-bottom plan to modernize civil service employment tracking across Massachusetts. Let's dive right in and see exactly how a digital upgrade like this could fundamentally change the way municipalities operate.
Here is what we're covering today. First, we'll look at the current record-keeping crisis, then introduce the electronic PSER and explore how it solves a major federal bottleneck. After that, we'll get into how this creates a reserve workforce, the massive cost savings for employers, and finally, the grassroots political roadmap behind the whole document.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the record-keeping bureaucratic crisis, and examine these bureaucratic bottlenecks. To really appreciate the solution, we first have to wrap our heads around the problem. So, ask yourself, what actually happens when a town simply loses a public servant's records? It sounds kind of crazy in our hyper-digital world, right? But the source text points out that for folks like Department of Public Works drivers or Supermax correction officers, record-keeping is currently totally fractured, and a lot of it is still just paper-based. When small, underfunded towns fall behind on this paperwork or misplace a physical file, it creates a massive nightmare. We're talking severe legal liabilities, totally delayed retirements, and just incredible friction for people who have dedicated their entire careers to public service.
Now, this bureaucratic crisis creates a very specific real-world bottleneck with federal law. Let's talk about LEOSA, the Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act. It's a federal statute that allows qualified retired law enforcement to carry concealed firearms as long as they have state or agency ID. But here's the catch that the proposal details. Local agencies are relying on those fractured, localized records we just talked about. Because of that, they often arbitrarily deny these credentials. They basically throw their hands up and say they just don't have the historical paperwork to verify a retiree's past operational assignments or their powers of arrest.
So right now, the current state of affairs is pretty chaotic. On one side, you've got these decentralized data silos with every local agency desperately trying to maintain its own isolated HR records. And on the flip side, you have unfunded municipal mandates. Small towns and underfunded state agencies literally do not have the budget or the staff to manually process complex employee credentialing. Imagine trying to piece together a 30-year career from a bunch of dusty, coffee-stained filing cabinets in the basement of a town hall. It's a system designed to fail.
The proposal offers a pretty radical alternative. Unload those statutory recording responsibilities completely. Instead of hundreds of struggling local silos, the state would roll out a single, centralized digital platform. This system would track every certification, every assignment, and every personal action in real time.
Which brings us to Section 2. Enter the electronic PSER, creating a universal digital record. The author compares this Electronic Public Employee Service Record, or PESR, to a military DD-214 or an electronic health record, but scaled up for every single public employee in Massachusetts. Let's look at how it tracks the whole life cycle. Step 1 is active service. Data goes in daily, guaranteeing fair job bidding and union compliance. If a premium overtime slot opens up, the PESR automatically verifies seniority and specialty training, which totally removes any chance of local favoritism. Step 2 covers injury and modified duty. Workers' comp and medical restrictions are baked right into the digital record, so injured workers can seamlessly transition to light duty. The mission still gets done while they heal. Finally, Step 3, separation. Because everything was tracked meticulously in real time, the system naturally spits out a pristine historical record at retirement. Absolutely zero manual review from a local agency is required.
Moving right along to Section 3, solving the LEOSA bottleneck through an assumption of authority. Here is where things get really interesting from a legal standpoint. The proposal introduces what it calls a statutory assumption of authority. By using Massachusetts General Law Chapter 32, which is what governs retirement systems, an individual's official Group 4 or Group 2 hazardous duty classification gets combined with their verified digital PSR index. Legally speaking, this creates a presumption of regularity. Basically, it acts as bulletproof proof that the officer possessed the required statutory powers of arrest. This is a real game changer because it strips the local agency of the ability to subjectively debate a retiree's historical authority. The system just looks at the data and says, yep, they qualify.
To make sure local friction is completely eliminated, the proposal maps out a very strict timeline. Day 0 is the officer's retirement date. Fast forward to the 30-day mark, and all jurisdiction to verify LEOSA status automatically transfers from the former local agency directly over to the Massachusetts State Retirement Board. The former agency is legally completely out of the picture. Then, at the 365-day mark, the annual firearms qualification is decoupled from local police ranges. Retirees would complete their mandated range qualifications with independent, state-certified instructors. Again, this removes an unfunded mandate from the local police departments entirely.
All right, Section 4, building a reserve workforce of pre-vetted talent.
By tracking all these credentials in real time, retirees suddenly transform from former employees into a latent, pre-vetted workforce just waiting to be tapped for emergencies. Imagine a severe blizzard hits. A retired Department of Public Works employee with an active commercial driver's license, tracked right there in their PSR, can be instantly recalled to drive snowplows. Or a retired municipal clerk can be quickly rehired for a crazy election season. For public safety, LEOSA credentialed retirees can be instantly verified to provide event security. And the proposal points out that even unweaponized retirees are incredibly valuable. Their training in de-escalation and first aid makes them top-tier crisis management assets. And to sweeten the deal, the state would offer perks for stepping up, like free access to Department of Conservation and Recreation state parks.
So how do you actually manage all these people? Simple. The PESR uses Registry of Motor Vehicles issued driver's licenses equipped with a secure QR code. A hiring authority can just scan that code to instantly verify a retiree's status. They can check right on the spot if an annual firearms qualification is active or lapsed. But here is the really brilliant part. Under Massachusetts law, public retirees are strictly capped at 1,200 hours of public reemployment per year. The QR code and the PESR track these hours in real time. This guarantees that these highly trained folks can seamlessly come back into service without accidentally going over their earnings caps and risking their pensions.
Next up is Section 5. Massive employer cost savings, focusing on slashing indirect costs. Now, obviously, upgrading state infrastructure costs money up front, but the source text argues that the long-term financial benefits for municipalities are absolutely staggering.
Look at this number, 3 to 5. According to state municipal data cited in the proposal, the indirect costs of unmanaged workers' compensation and lost productivity can reach 3 to 5 times the cost of the direct claims themselves. To put that into perspective, the hidden administrative and operational costs are literally bleeding local governments dry.
So where do the savings actually come from? First off, eliminating HR redundancy. Towns wouldn't have to blow their budgets maintaining local, isolated data silos anymore. They just plug into the state platform. Second, mitigating FOIA and legal liability. Having standardized, instantly accessible records drastically cuts down on the legal fees that pile up over lost paperwork or disputed retirements. And finally, optimizing return-to-work ROI. Because workers' comp is tracked seamlessly within the system, agencies can safely retain productive employees on modified duty. That means slashing the massive overtime costs normally used to fill vacant shifts.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 6, the Citizens Petition Roadmap, specifically looking at the grassroots roadmap for 2026. It is super important to understand the actual context of the document we're looking at today. The author, Daniel DeBruhl, includes a very explicit disclaimer. He states that this material is a strategic roadmap and an informational foundation for a planned 2026 Citizens Petition Drive in Massachusetts. He makes it crystal clear this is not an active lobbying effort directed at sitting legislators. Instead, it's an educational, citizen-led initiative. The goal is to unify the community and refine the framework through peer review well before it formally enters the state's legislative petition process. It's just a really fascinating inside look at grassroots organizational strategy before a bill even gets near the State House floor.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer. We've seen how a single digital platform aims to solve localized bureaucratic nightmares, streamline federal credentialing, build an emergency reserve workforce, and potentially save taxpayers millions of dollars. Which leaves us with one big provocative question to consider. How could digitizing our local civil service permanently reshape public safety, fairness, and government efficiency in your community? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating proposal with us, and keep questioning how the systems around us can be built better.